It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We do your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. And you can give us a follow on anywhere that you happen to look for podcasts by searching for the KABC News Blitz, which I was just checking our podcast playlist today. How cool is this? The KABC News Blitz on Friday, I posted my 200th episode of this show. It's an hour-long show, so you could track it like episodes, like a podcast. We've done 200 of these. Well, here's to 201. Now, we here at the News Blitz like to settle disputes. Nothing bothers me more than a big old unnecessary feud. So sometimes it's up to me and you, the audience, to help settle a feud by trying to figure out who's the bigger a-hole in a story. See, not every argument is black and white. There's a lot of gray areas. Sometimes both sides can be right in some ways and wrong in some ways. So really, it has to boil down to, when you have a dispute, who's the bigger jerk? Who's the a-hole in this story? Our debate today brings us to the Pacific Palisades, a gorgeous little part of Southern California where there is a dispute in the terms of food. What am I talking about? You know, it is a beautiful place, California. We have such a rich tapestry of ways that you can enjoy a meal. We have great supermarkets and great farmers markets, so you can go cook at home, which I do frequently. We've got wonderful 5-star restaurants, but also for people that are balling on a budget, maybe people that want something that's even more local, LA has a great street food scene with lots of food trucks. I mean, the taco truck was pretty much born here, right? Well, this is where we get into our dispute. There is a taco truck in the Pacific Palisades that for 10 years has been parking near a Ralph's supermarket. And, you know, this isn't anything new. I have a Ralph's right around the corner from me on Saticoy. And you know what? I see a taco truck there every night. In fact, some nights you see two. And how is this causing anybody distress, you wonder? Well, apparently, the people at the Ralph's were very upset that so many people wanted to go to this taco truck and use Ralph's parking lot to park and then get their tacos and then get inside. They're not using the parking lot for the supermarket. They're using the parking lot for this other business. This other business that's not dealing with the same burden as a brick and mortar supermarket. Now, you can argue, wait a second, these are two completely different classes of restaurants. This isn't like a taco truck pulling in front of a Mexican restaurant. Let's find out what the dispute is here. Let's see if we can settle it. And if we can't, we'll have to decide who's the bigger a-hole here. Are you ready? Let's go. Here's a report from KTLA.
In other news tonight, food trucks and grocery stores, they usually don't compete for space, but a battle is brewing over in the Pacific Palisades. A Ralph store has been accused of forcing out a taco truck that's been serving that community for more than a decade.
Okay, right off the bat, Ralph's, you're not looking good here.
A Ralph store has been accused of forcing out a taco truck that's been serving that community for more than a decade.
KTLA's Jennifer McGraw is live in Pacific Palisades with more on the dispute. Hi, Jen.
Karine and Rick, good evening. Well, to be fair, there's not a lot of parking in this neighborhood, and a lot of people who were going to the vendors were parking in the shopping center, which belongs to Ralph's. But since then...
That happens all the time for everything. This city has limited parking for all kinds of things, and you're not always parking specifically where you should be. I try to be good. If there's a sign that says, you know, this parking is for this restaurant only, then I don't park there. But believe you me, this is a problem that happens all the time.
Karine and Rick, good evening. Well, to be fair, there's not a lot of parking in this neighborhood, and a lot of people...
It's like, Franklin Boulevard in that real cool hipster part of town where the UCB theater is, And there's that Bird's restaurant and a French restaurant. When I was in my 20s, I had friends that wanted to hang out in that part of town all the time, that the hipster Los Feliz area. Well, it's impossible to park anywhere near there. In fact, I had a friend that lived near there and could never find parking. So if you wanted to go to UCB, if you wanted to go to the Birds, or you wanted to go to the French restaurant, you either would drive around neighborhoods for many, 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 many minutes, hoping that somebody moves from a parking space, or you park at the Gelson's right there and just hope for the best. So this happens all the time in all kinds of different neighborhoods, but I've never heard of a supermarket paying that much attention to who's using their parking spaces, because you got to imagine, unlike going to a comedy show, people that are parking in a supermarket parking lot for a taco truck aren't parking there for more than 20 minutes at most.
Karine and Rick, good evening. Well, to be fair, there's not a lot of parking in this neighborhood, and a lot of people who were going to the vendors were parking in the shopping center, which belongs to Ralph's. But since then, and the legal battle, all the vendors had to move from the main drag where everybody could see them in town to now this side street.
Oh, now it's going to be harder to find them. What other trucks were there?
Rudy Barrientos is firing up more than just his grill these days.
They banned us from...
What, firing up his temper? Do we have to? I know it's not a serious story, and newscasters, they have a really tough job. Unlike this medium, where I can pick and choose whatever I want to talk about, and I feel lucky to do that every single day, people who work in television news have to simultaneously go from somebody got murdered to taco truck dispute. So I understand it if they want to have a little fun with the not serious story, because they have to report on the serious stories.
Rudy Barrientos is firing up more than just his grill these days.
They banned us from Ralph's.
And it's not like the taco truck was parking in the Ralph's parking lot. It was parking on the street. But the customers were so addicted to those tacos, well, they needed to be there. They needed somewhere to park.
Saying that we couldn't use the restaurants, we couldn't shop there, we couldn't...
Wait, they wouldn't let you shop there? That seems really foolish. Like, let's say the taco truck needed paper plates or napkins or cutlery, things that they could go through a supplier for, or, I don't know, buy them in bulk at the local grocery store. I mean, heck, the customers, you might see these two entities as separate, but there may be some customers that went to the taco truck, placed their order, while they were waiting 10 to 15 minutes for their plates of tacos. They may have run into that Ralph's and stocked up on toilet paper. Okay, that's the oldest, dumbest joke, and I'm the worst. Couldn't help myself. But, you could do a little shopping here or there. It's like there is a Starbucks near the Ralph's near my house. And sometimes if I'm feeling like a good husband and I want to pick up a coffee for my wife, I place the order, and it's all in the same structure, so it's not like there's any dispute there. But I park, run into Ralph's to grab one or two things that I know I couldn't get at Trader Joe's, and then I go get my coffee. See, it all can work together. We should all be very, very, very aware that we can all get along. I'm a peacemaker here. I want people to be happy. I don't like fights.
Saying that we couldn't use the restaurants, we couldn't shop there, we couldn't even set foot in the parking lot.
And by the way, telling the purveyors and the customers of Taco Truck that they cannot use your supermarket bathroom, okay, that's fine. But if they start going in the alley, that's on you, buddy.
The turf war started after receiving a cease and desist order from Ralph's. The order claiming that Rudy's customers were using the store's parking lot earlier this year. Then the real trouble came just last month when he says his truck was surrounded by armed guards.
Whoa! Okay, now we've escalated this. You could almost feel for the supermarket. Maybe it's a really small parking lot and their customers were complaining because there's so many people that need to go to this taco truck. By the way, this taco truck must be amazing if it's got that much, if it's causing a whole parking dispute. Oh, love the food scene in LA.
Patrol our trucks constantly.
Rudy has been serving up Mexican food in this community and in the same spot for nearly 10 years. But
so it's not like this is something new. What escalated to the point where we've got a Hatfield and McCoy-style feud in the parking lot of this Ralph's?
But says the hassle with Ralph's wasn't worth his health, adding that Ralph's actually had their employees park in the street, taking away his spot.
Oh, wow. Talk about what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So the taco truck doesn't live there. He theoretically brings it to the same spot every night on the street. It's a public street. And Ralph's, whoever runs this Ralph's, had their employees park where the taco truck would park. That is petty.
More than anything, it was very chaotic, and it was something that I just didn't want to be a part of. And once again, we have such great local support that I figured that if we moved, people would follow us.
Even longtime customers.
I wonder how many people parked at the Ralph's to walk into the Ralph's and said, hey, where'd the taco truck go?
Follow us.
Even longtime customers are equally upset.
I think it's just ridiculous, sort of the whole saga with Ralph's fighting over their parking lot.
I mean, how about the attraction of something so simple like a taco truck that it brings people to that shopping center? That's a good thing. Why are we fighting about this? It's the holidays.
He encourages people not to park there. If they do, it's not any of his fault.
But not everyone agrees with the street vendors in their neighborhood.
It's not the right way to do business when you have stores that are paying rent that really make a community. These people come, they take, and they leave.
Gracias.
Wow. That guy's not happy. All right, we found somebody that believes the taco truck owner is in the wrong because, well, they don't have to pay the same kind of fees and taxes to be there. They can just pull up to whatever street they want and they can sell their tacos.
Gracias, Senor has been Rudy's dream on wheels, a proud taquero with a business degree. Here's to hoping his new spot will bring in big business.
To patrol a taco truck that genuinely just wants to provide some goodness and delicious food, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the armed guards one, I don't know. I'm having a hard time deciding what was the more insane escalation to this story. Ralph's paying armed guards to surround the truck, or Ralph's telling their employees to go park in the space where the taco truck was going to park.
And I spoke with Rudy tonight. He says they do pay for several permits throughout the city in different areas and also with the county, and they, of course, pay street parking. As for Ralph's, we reached out and we have not heard back. We're live in Pacific Palisades. Jennifer McGraw, KTLA 5 News.
Now, I am trying to be an independent arbiter in this story. As you know, my bias is showing a little bit because I am generally pro-taco. I think that's a stance that I can take that I don't think is too controversial. But if there's ever a situation where someone can have more tacos than they have now, that's a good situation to be in. And I support that way of life. But I do understand the plight of business owners. I understand how frustrating parking disputes can be anywhere in Los Angeles County. And if you've only got a limited space and they're there for your customers and this unrelated entity is cutting into possibly your business, because if you can't park at the supermarket, well, you're probably not going to go to the supermarket unless it's Trader Joe's. You want to talk about parking lot fights? Oh, if you've ever seen the one in Encino, that is a wild scene. Only go there at 8 a.m. You go there anytime besides 8 a.m., good luck. It's rough out there. But this is where it's time for you, the audience, to weigh in on this seemingly silly debate. Because both of these people, in a certain light, can be in the right, but also, in a certain light, can be seen in the wrong. And it feels like there were unnecessary steps taken. Now, I don't know what else the taco truck owner could have done. He finally did move his truck, so now it's not bothering the Ralph's anymore. But it wasn't him who was like, go park in the Ralph's parking lot. What's he supposed to do? It's a taco truck, and there's not much street parking. And apparently it's that popular. But did Ralph's really need to go to the point where they filed legal action, sent threatening armed guards, and blocked the parking space to drive away this fellow entrepreneur, this fellow person who just wanted to feed the Palisades? I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but maybe you do. So I right now need you to weigh in on this dispute at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. When it comes to the parking fight between Ralph's in Pacific Palisades and the taco truck, who's being the bigger a-hole in this story? Who needs to back down? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. When it comes to the fight between the taco truck and the Ralphs, who's being the bigger jerk in this story? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. I need you to weigh in on this very important topic because this is a dispute I would like to settle right here, right now. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Who's being the bigger a-hole here? It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC. There is a dispute in the Pacific Palisades between a Ralph's supermarket and a taco truck that happened to be parked on the sidewalk in front of the store for 10 years. Ralph's didn't take too kindly to the taco truck's customers parking in the supermarket parking lot. They sent a cease and desist, apparently sent some armed guards, and then had their employees park where the taco truck would park so they could drive him out, and now the taco truck is moved. By the way, the name of the taco truck is Gracias, Señor Taqueria, and I just gave them a follow on Instagram at Gracias, Señor. So look, I'm not the one who's going to settle this dispute. You are. When it comes to the story of the taco truck in the fight with the Ralph supermarket in the Palisades, who's being the bigger a-hole in this story? Is it the food truck or is it Ralph's? 800-222-KABC. Got a full board of phone calls. Let's get to everybody. Let's start with Robert in San Pedro. Robert, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great.
Now, the Ralph thing, that guy's out of his mind. I don't know how he's going to okay the money spent on the armed guards. Now, this truck, he's trying to put food and groceries down, and pun intended, good food and groceries down your neck, and he deserves a break. So, I mean, Ralph is in the wrong, and especially the guy who okayed the armed guards and then telling his employees they got to park there, so otherwise they don't get fired. And this is completely off topic, but one of these days, if you ever do anything on Venezuela, I could tell you a little something about Venezuela and why they're doing what they're doing. Enjoy your evening.
All right, I'll consider doing a topic on Venezuela. Thanks so much for the call, Robert. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Let's go to Richard in Chatsworth. Richard, hello.
Hi. Listen, I don't mind food trucks. That's okay. But parking in the parking lot of a business is simply wrong, and they know it. It's like parking in front of a restaurant that's paid for their taxes, paid their license fee, and you're just driving people out and taking the parking places. They know it's illegal. You can't park there. And by parking there, Ralph's is incurring possible liability. If someone gets hurt, someone gets poisoned by allowing it to occur on their property. So support the food trucks. Just park where you're supposed to be. We have food truck nights up in Chatsworth on Chatsworth Street where they park 10 in a row and everyone's happy. Or up in Sylmar, they do it by one of the parks. They have 10 or 12 trucks come out and people enjoy it. You don't park in the parking lot of a business, take up their spaces, and cause them liability. It's not a matter of being it's a matter of...
Oh, Richard, you can't
right.
say that, but thank you so much for the call, buddy. I appreciate it. Art, we got that, right? Okay, let's move on. Got to remember to edit that out of the podcast. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. When it comes to this dispute over the parking situation at the Ralph's in Pacific Palisades and the taco truck, who's in the wrong here and who's being the bigger a-hole? Is it the taco truck that its customers were using the parking for Ralph's to buy the tacos? Or is it Ralph's for getting so pissed off about that they allegedly hired armed guards and hired their employees to, or used their employees to block the parking space for the taco truck, which is on the sidewalk. It's not in the actual parking lot of the supermarket. As far as I'm aware, I think the sidewalk, anybody could park there, but maybe I'm wrong. I want to hear how you weigh in on this. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. And give us a follow wherever you find podcasts by searching for the KABC News Blitz on Apple Podcasts or whatever. We're up to 200 episodes of this thing. How cool is that? We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC to help settle this dispute in the Pacific Palisades between Ralph's Supermarket and a taco truck that was parked in front of the supermarket whose customers were using the Ralph's parking lot to get said tacos. It has escalated to cartoonish antics, but I want to know, when it comes to the case of the taco truck versus the Ralphs, who's being the bigger jerk in this story? Who's being the bigger a-hole? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to the Pacific Palisades and go to Sue in the Palisades. Sue, hello.
Hey, how are you tonight?
Doing great.
Actually, you don't have all the facts. There are now 4 trucks parked on Sunset. They park there starting like at 8 in the morning and don't leave until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And it's 2-hour parking. They keep feeding the meters, but they can't stay there after 2 hours. And recently, a taco stand set up that isn't a truck. So they take up the entire sidewalk, so you can't even walk through the sidewalk. And I tried to walk through with my dogs today, and then one of my dogs pooped right where they're serving food. So I'm not sure how sanitary that is. But Ralph's, I think, is just trying to get their sidewalk back so people can park there. And it's just sort of a mess. The guards are actually very nice. If someone parks there and then goes into the grocery store and buys something and then goes back over to the truck, they let them go. But the bigger issue is those trucks. It's like a public nuisance with 4 trucks and a pop-up taco stand on the sidewalk.
Well, that's quite a lot of eating for one street.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for a substandard LA city street.
Yeah, and that's a tough part of town with traffic, too. Well, thanks for informing us of what's going on down there. I appreciate it, Sue. Thanks so much for the call.
Sure.
So it's more than just that taco truck, which could definitely lean into why the Ralph's people are really irritated, because there's 4 trucks and then just a makeshift taco stand. You know where you got to go? You got to go to the parking lot of any post office, because they don't care. Or they really don't care. You know, if you ever get off the 405 at Sherman Way in the Van Nuys area, I swear every corner gets taken over on Friday and Saturday nights by people selling tacos. They're selling pupusas. They're selling menudo. It looks pretty fun to me. But again, I'm not in a business in that area, so I don't know how irritating it would be. That area is always easy to find parking because there's tons of parking at the post office, which is closed. But who do you think is in the wrong in this story? Who's being the bigger a-hole? Maybe it's both. Let's go to Mike in Santa Monica. Mike, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great.
So Sue just stole half my thunder, and she's absolutely right. But she didn't add this. That Ralph shares that parking lot with 2 other businesses and a car wash, where I work being one of them. The parking lot is a nightmare, with the car wash going on and having a hardware store than the company I work for there. So it's pretty bad.
That sounds like a lot to deal with.
Yeah, and like she said on the sidewalk, how they set up, you can't walk by there. That's impossible. And then Right on the corner, there's a Chipotle, which is probably paying about $25,000 a month, I'm sure, in rent. So I wouldn't think they're happy. But anyway, it's LA. What do you do?
Oh, boy. I didn't realize there is an actual Mexican restaurant in the shopping center. Although, I mean, it's Chipotle, but, some people will choose Chipotle
Yeah, and
over a taco
there's another
truck.
Mexican restaurant in the Palisades also, literally probably 80 yards away from where that truck is on the same side of the street.
Oh, boy. Well, I appreciate the perspective, Mike. Thanks for painting the picture for us.
All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Dean in Irvine. Dean, hello.
Hello. How are you doing today, Randy?
Doing great.
Okay. Well, my opinion on the situation is that I think the taco truck is in the right. If they were parked in a shopping center with small businesses, that wouldn't be okay. But since it's a chain grocery store and chain restaurants, I think it's completely okay. They get enough support and money factoring into their business through other chains that are around the area. I don't really see the issue. I also think telling their employees to park where the taco trucks park and also getting armed guards is completely petty and irrational.
Yeah, that seemed like they went a little too far on that one, especially the spiteful, we're going to block your parking space.
Yeah, I think it's very, very petty and too far, and I'm not sure if they've quite literally just talked to the truck owners. I mean, a little can go a long way when it comes to just having a conversation with someone.
It can be reasonable.
Exactly.
I think you make a really good point. I think we could all sit down over some tacos and we could hash this thing out and find something that works for everybody. But this is escalating to just cartoonish levels. Dean, thank you so much for the call, buddy. Appreciate it. And by the way, I'm following now Gracias Senor on Instagram. Apparently, this has escalated to the point where there's now a court fight, and Rouse was trying to get a restraining order against the taco truck. I don't know what's going on. It's very interesting. But, it's these little disputes that we can all look at and realize, it doesn't always have to be doom and gloom. Let's go to Sarah in Long Beach. Sarah, hello.
Hi. Well, a lot of the other callers have covered what I was going to say, but like in my city, the taco trucks are lined up like along the shoreline. That's one issue. And then there's all these little pop-ups. I live in a very suburban part. The sidewalk isn't, even though it's suburban, it's not very wide. And they've done stuff like, we've been fighting against this since 22, where the taco people take their grease and pour it down the drain, and then the nearby business, whatever restaurant is there, they get dinged. And also the part about safety, Long Beach has its own health department, but those people are not policemen. So you're going to send the health inspectors out there. They're going to be, they're vulnerable, and that's not fair. And the thing about competing with businesses, no. The people who pay for their actual land shouldn't have to compete with somebody who just pulls up in front of them. So, I wish there was a better way, but it just seems like Long Beach still hasn't resolved it all. And then we have right near our freeway on-ramp, they park in the red, and they also have the propane going, and it's a fire hazard.
Oh, that's a major fire hazard. And I'm so glad you brought up the thing about the grease, because that's just now being talked about in the city of Los Angeles, where they're trying to figure out some kind of program. But yeah, okay, it's one thing if you're street vending or you've got a makeshift stand, but if you're deep frying and you've got oil, you have to have a safe way to dispose of that oil. You do not pour it down the storm drain.
Right. Yeah. And the local, there's one corner where the people just keep coming back. I was taking my sister to her job for 2 years ago. That's how I know. And every day we found out in the city council, They got them. They confiscated their stuff and whatever. And guess who's there right now? And they totally block. And I have a disability. They totally block the sidewalk, and nobody seems to care. You know, it's like if somebody wants to walk their pet, or if somebody just wants to walk down the sidewalk. I mean, when I didn't have, a vehicle that I had to use, I could step around and step, aside, and I wouldn't have minded so much. But now I can't. I don't go places because I can't get through.
That part is completely unacceptable. Sarah, I'm so sorry about that. No one should be blocking the sidewalk. Nobody should be blocking your right of way to get through, especially when you don't have a way to get around. I'm so sorry about that, Sarah, but thank you so much for letting us know what's going on in Long Beach. We'll continue. If you're on hold, stay on hold. We'll get to you as we try to settle this dispute between the taco truck and the Ralphs in Pacific Palisades. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phones and go to Steve in Laguna Niguel. Steve, hello.
Hello, how are you doing? What was the old
doing
thing
great
that Rodney King said, why can't we all just get along? But, I think during COVID, that's how I was fed, through the trucks. And some of the best food I ever had was from the trucks. There was this one truck that had Cuban sandwiches that were so good. I miss that truck. I don't know where it's at now. But anyway, what I've seen 3 places, I think Ralph and the truck should just work together and say, hey, Ralph, come out and say, hey, you know what, we'll kind of sponsor you and put I've seen 3 places where they have trucks lined up. One was at Orange County Fairgrounds. I don't know if they still have it. I saw one in Utah. I saw one in New Mexico. They all kind of line up like in a circle, like a wagon wheel, and they just sell their tacos. Like in a convenient place, maybe Ralph's could sponsor them. Say, hey, you know what? We'll help you. You help us. They could put banners around. Hey, we're sponsored by Ralph or whoever wants to sponsor them. They're out of everybody's way. They might have a restroom there. Because I know, like, trucks on the street are kind of, as much as I love them, they're kind of a pain if they're not at the right spot because it's inconvenient for some people. I know the ones that I see are mainly kind of out of the way, kind of like in spots where, really nobody's at. So I don't know. I don't know the situation there, but I think Ralph's and the trucks could work together and put a spot where all the trucks can line up and everybody can sell their tacos and everybody's happy. Out of the way.
I think we should. I think that's the route we should go here. Something that makes everybody happy, because obviously wherever these trucks go, a lot of people seem to show up. Steve, thank you so much for the call, buddy. Appreciate it. More of your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phones and go to Bernie in Sherman Oaks. Bernie, hello.
Hello?
Hey, you're on the air.
Okay. Yeah, I live in Sherman Oaks, and I usually shop at the Ralphs on Burbank near Van Nuys Boulevard. And they park the taco trucks outside on the street, and the cars that come to buy stuff from the taco trucks park in the Ralphs parking lot. And the parking lot is jammed up so much sometimes there's no parking spots. So, and when you come out of there, and if you're going to go west on Burbank Boulevard, it's very dangerous. People go whipping by there in their cars. And those trucks, you can't see past, can't see around them. So I've now started to go over to the Ralphs on Ventura Boulevard and Hazeltine. It's a lot more convenient. There's parking spaces and there's no taco trucks. And the people that use those taco trucks or that buy from those taco trucks on Burbank Boulevard, they go and use the restrooms in Ralphs. And the Ralphs is paying for all that, the supplies for the restrooms, and they're usually dirty in there because it's homeless people that use them too. And I wonder who gets sued when somebody gets hurt there, and they've taken over the sidewalks. Those are public sidewalks, not taco trucks sidewalks. And that corner of Haskell and Sherman Way where they set up there every day, besides the weekends, they're set up on the sidewalk and they park themselves into the parking lot. If you go into the post office there, you're lucky if you can find a parking spot. That's wrong. And who's paying for that? as taxpayers.
Well, you
So
make
I
some
don't
really
think
valid points about some of the concerns that are going on out there, especially the fact that you can't see when you're trying to turn because they're blocking that corner. So thanks so much for talking to us, Bernie. Appreciate it. We got time for one more. Let's go to Mark in Nevada. Mark, hello.
Yeah, hey. Yeah, well, for one thing, in a city like that, I lived in California. That's like a more what I call a high-end city. That's a nice area. I'd be kind of pissed if I was paying $2 million to live in that neighborhood, and they need to go to another city or go downtown somewhere. And I mean, if I was a business owner and they did that to me, that wouldn't be right. They need to enforce laws, and people need to go by the rules and do the right thing, and that's just not the right thing to do. And that's one reason California is so messed up, because nobody wants to obey the rules or laws or anything. They want to do whatever they feel like doing. So,
well, interesting that you bring up laws, because the state of California in 2017, they passed a bill making all levels of street vending not even a criminal issue. It's all done through public works and public health. Mark, thank you so much for the call, buddy. Appreciate it. Got time for an email or two here at randykabc@gmail.com. Judy writes in and says, if I had a business, it was paying for that parking or my share of it, I would be very unhappy if a business pulled up to my parking lot and his customers used it. I think the Ralphs might have overreacted, but they were probably on their last nerve. And Rocco writes in at randykabc@gmail.com. It sounds like the truck parked on private property and the owner of the property has the right to say, get off my asphalt. Thank you so much, Rocco. Appreciate it. Well, I don't know if we solved this dispute, but I feel like we had a very civil conversation where we had people on both sides of this issue weigh their concerns about this. I think everyone should find a way to get along, and we should find a way to realize there is enough room in my stomach for the supermarket and the taco truck. But thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you tomorrow for another News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.